This morning's message will be brief. Not because I'm being thoughtful or considerate, nor do I doubt the length of your attention span. Our years together have convinced me that if I go long, you will stay and you will listen. But I am forced into brevity because this message today will be an abysmal failure. You will ask, why would he say his message is going to fail when it has not yet been delivered? Well, it will be brief because I don't believe in prolonging agony. So since I'm going to fail, I might as well get on with it. But I am forced into failure because today's message requires that I use words, that I employ the human vocabulary. As one great poet said, as he wrote of his poetry, that it was a raid on the inarticulate. As wonderful as words are, and as powerful as words are, sometimes they fail us. And although words are the only means by which we communicate, sometimes we find them woefully inadequate. Very often in our human experience, the weight, the freight of our feelings and emotions and desires is just too heavy to be carried by words. You know that. You know that very well. When you tell someone, I love you, is that all you mean to say? Or are you reaching into the very depths of your soul, to the very depths of your emotions, and you struggle to find a word? That's all you can say, but that's not all you mean. And you wish that your lover really knew how you felt. But all you can say is, I love you. And they know that there is more to it than that. This message ought to be all video and no audio. So I'm going to ask you this morning to reverse the process and to hear me with your eyes. And if I can get you to see it, I'll be done. The writer of the Hebrews is writing to discourage Christians. And he writes to show them the supremacy, the fullness, the totality, the absoluteness of Jesus above and beyond any other form or system or thought, philosophy or religion, including Judaism and all of its glories. But he unravels in this magnificent book these words as he talks about, listen to me now, Jesus as he preaches to the discouraged. And I wonder if there's anybody here today who knows anything about discouragement. And I extract from this pericope that word in the center of verse 3 that Jesus did something by himself. All by himself. Jesus entered upon the greatest experience that can imaginable in all of human history. But the thing that disturbs me is that he did it by himself. Well, there is a precedent for that because, outside of the tabernacle was the altar, the 7-foot high altar, and then there was the laver, and then there was the holy place, and the priest went up that altar by himself, and then the priest went in to replace the showbread and the lampstand and the incense by himself. But you remember when the high priest on the Day of Atonement went in the most holy place before the Ark of the Covenant to spread the blood of atonement for the nation, he had to go in by himself. It was light in the courtyard because it was outside. There was lesser light in the holy place because there was the candelabra. But in the most holy place, it was totally dark. And the high priest had to put on his robes and go before the very throne of God himself. And he moved that spooky purple curtain and he walked behind the veil. And there sat the Ark of the Covenant. And there he sprinkled the blood of the Lamb as atonement for the people. And there were thousands of priests in Israel, but could only go by himself before God. But when the high priest went before God, he took the blood of a lamb. A lamb had been slain, his throat had been cut, the blood was caught, and he went in with the blood of another. Oh, but Jesus, when Jesus died, when Jesus gave himself, it was not the blood of another. It was his own blood. Now, you get the typology of the Old Testament. The blood, the lamb was slain, his throat was cut, and they caught the blood. But what do you do when you know you're the lamb? That lamb was innocent. That lamb didn't know what was going on. But they tell me that cows, when they move toward the slaughter, that they tend to back up when they get the smell of blood and they realize they're about to turn into hamburger and steak. But what happens when Jesus knew that he and he alone, that's the word I want to raise, alone. When did this loneliness start? Now, it's peculiar because it's almost a contradiction, because we say that Jesus was God. So when did this aloneness start? Now, at the baptism, God was there, wasn't he? He said, "This is my, in whom I'm well pleased." When Jesus said, "Father, glorify your name," God spoke out from heaven. He turned on heaven's PA system and said, "I have glorified it before and I'll do it again." When Jesus was on the Mount of Transfiguration and Peter got happy and wanted to build 3 tabernacles, one for Moses, one for Elijah, and one for Jesus, God spoke up and said, "Shut up, Peter, that's my beloved son, hear him." Jesus even made the statement, "Father, you've always heard me." So how in the world did he get alone? Look in Gethsemane. They have finished in the upper room, and they've come down through the Kidron Valley, and they've gone into this garden. I've been there in Gethsemane with the gnarled olive trees. Notice something. He leaves some of the disciples at the gate. Watch this. He takes Peter, James, and John with him a little farther than the rest, but they couldn't go with him where he went. When he prayed, even though the others went a little further, and see, there are people in church who some stop at the gate, That's as far as they can go. I used to think, listen, the Lord is teaching me as I get older some things I wish he had taught me 30 years ago. My job would have been easier. It's not that they don't want to go. That's as far as they can go. You got to understand people's capacity. Some folks can't get past the gate. That's all they can do. So leave them alone. Don't be mad with them. Wish I'd learned that 30 years ago. My God. I'd have far less gray hair. Then there are other people who can go a little farther. They press on. They go farther. But some things you just got to go by yourself. And Jesus separated himself even from Peter, James, and John. And look at him. He's beginning to sweat. There's a level of nervousness they've never seen. He's agitated. He's bothered. He's grieved. He's troubled. And he doesn't bow down. He falls down in convulsive sobs, shake his strong carpenter's frame, and the veins are popping out in his head, and his eyes are red, and he's sweating like great drops of blood. But if you notice something, it's a one-way conversation. He's talking to God, but God is not talking back. Father, Abba, I know what we planned before the foundation of the world, but if it be possible, don't do it. Don't do it. When I talked about it back in eternity, I thought I could do this, but I've changed my mind. Take this cup from me. What do you do when you're going through the worst time of your life and God won't answer? All hell is breaking loose. And you say, Father, I stretch my hand to thee. And he said, but my hand ain't stretched to thee. There's never been a more deafening silence in the history of mankind. Alone. And then, after that horrible scourging, and after that unimaginable beating, and after that kangaroo court before the Sanhedrin, and before Pilate and Caiaphas and Herod, they put that 200-pound pablum, that crossbeam, on his shoulder and marched him up the Via Dolorosa alone. They got him to Calvary's killing ground, Golgotha's murdering hill, splattered with the blood and the flesh of thousands who have been put to death in that death chamber. They put those nails and spikes in his wrists and spikes in his feet and hoisted him up on that rough-hewn wood, and he hung there by himself. He bore the pain. Look at him. Look at him. He bore the pain of all sin, all grief, all agony by himself. How do you feel when you bury someone dear to you and you sit on the front row and your heart breaks? That's what he felt. How do you feel in the last stages of cancer when the pain is unbearable? That's what he felt. How do you feel when your loved ones were on an airliner that they can't find, and you wake up every morning in agony, bad dreams, horrible thoughts? That's what he felt. How does it feel to have surgery with no anesthesia and the doctor cuts on you, but he doesn't give you anything for the pain? That's what he felt. So if you ever been heartbroken, I'm talking about you were broken so deeply you couldn't find words. You were hurt so bad, even you couldn't cry. It just hurt. You can't put it into word. Multiply that 10,000 times. And that's what he felt. Have you ever felt guilt, knowing you had done wrong, knowing you had failed God and failed yourself and done evil, intentional or unintentional? That's what he felt. The whole pain, agony, grief, sorrow, sickness, burden of the whole world rested on him, and he did it alone, by himself. So you say, people don't encourage me. He did it by himself. You say, I'm hurt so bad and my life is so depressed, I think I'll just end it all, or I think I'll drink liquor, or I think I'll take drugs because I'm alone. Well, I didn't say you weren't, but I know somebody who took it all. Jesus alone. The church likes to talk about the first family, the pastor and his wife, and if he has children. The church has a marriage ministry. And then a few years ago, the church realized that everybody in the church wasn't married. So it developed a singles ministry. But I don't know, and some pastors even got smart enough to hire a full-time singles pastor, which someday we will do, because I do care greatly about the singles in our church and all that they go through. And I pastored as a while as a single pastor, so I know something about the single life. I married a little later in life. But no ministry has ever been bold enough to start a loneliness ministry. See, because if you started that, it might not just be single people in it. You might have some married people with 8 children in the loneliness ministry. You might have some people who sleep next to somebody every night in the loneliness ministry, because a crowd of people don't mean you have company. And people around you don't mean it satisfies your need. Look at him. Alone. You want to see the ultimate loneliness? Eloi! Eloi! Lama Sabachthani. Lord, I know Peter's gone. I know Thomas. Judas is dead. I know all those people I fed. They ain't coming. They ain't coming. They got their fed. They got what they wanted. They're gone. I fed 30,000 with fish and loaves. I didn't expect them to come. They got what they wanted. They're gone. Bartimaeus ain't here. I opened his blind eyes, but he wasn't coming no way. I healed the man at the pool of Bethesda, but I wasn't expecting him. I healed 10 lepers. I knew they wasn't coming. I healed a woman with an issue of blood. I healed a man with a withered hand. Lord, I knew they wasn't coming. I did all that for them, but they wasn't coming no way. They got what they wanted. They're gone. They got what they wanted, so I wasn't even looking for them. Something you shouldn't even look for. Let me spare some of you some grief. Don't do anything for anybody looking for anything in return. You're going to get hurt. Whatever you give it and go on your way. You want to get your feelings hurt? Do something and stand around to get thanked for it. But what I don't understand is, but not you. How did you leave me? How did you not stay with me? Even you have abandoned me and left me alone. But I want you to know, bless his holy name. Bless his holy name. He took it. He took it. He took it. He took it by himself. He took it without the help of anybody. He took it with nobody at his side. He took it without a cheering squad, without anybody to pat him on the back, without a nurse to give him some water, without a deacon board to say, preach, pastor. He took it by himself. Now I want to raise this question. The Bible, that old Negro spiritual said, were you there when they crucified my Lord? Yes, I was there, but I wasn't there as his friend. I wasn't there to help him. I wasn't there to encourage him. Was it for crimes that I had done? I was the reason he was there. I was there, but I was the one nailing his hands, and I was the one nailing his feet. Look at him. All right. Told you I was going to fail. So don't tell me I didn't preach good. I don't want to hear it. And I'm tired of failing, so I'm going to quit. I told you from the outset this wasn't going to work. But let me tell you what that aloneness means. He experienced ultimate loneliness so you would never be by yourself. He went through ultimate loneliness so you can always say, thanks be unto God. He'll never leave me. He'll never forsake me. He'll never let me down. I've seen the lightning flashing. I've heard the thunder roll. I felt sin breakers dashing, trying to conquer my soul. But I heard the voice of telling me still, Fido, he promised. Never. The mountain doesn't get too high. The valley doesn't get too low. Never. The sickness doesn't get too great. Never to leave me. No. Never alone. No. Never alone.